let's do this in this heat.
Also, I hope you had a good day, but like it's too warm. There's no time.
It's too warm.
Cool.
Look, I love you, bud. Right, but come on.
There we go. That's staying in. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Hero or Zero here on the Heroes for Hire podcast. My name is Shaun Meehan, and joining me, as always, is my partner in crime, Mr. Conor Lawler.
Hi, Shaun. I'm very cold. It's a very cold day here in Ireland, and so that means my mind is working. I mean, perfectly, 100%. You know when you're cold and you're like alert. That's really what
it's like
I am
how a
there.
fridge is the most efficient weapon. I don't know what that means. I checked the ambient temperature in this room that we're recording in. It's 30 degrees Celsius, which is about 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
Cool.
I want to die. So
there is sweat going down my forehead currently, Shaun, so I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what you're expecting from me from this Hero Zero. By the way, Hero Zero is the show where we choose one comic book character every single week. We talk their good points and their bad points, and we generally just give you a bit of a rundown of everything to do with that character. Now, I normally choose DC characters, and Shaun normally chooses Marvel characters. But Shaun, it's your week.
It
and
is.
so I'm excited, but also I really, really want to stop recording in this hot box.
We had to close all the windows and turn off the fans to make the audio good. I hope you appreciate it. Please leave a like and comment on whatever subscriptions or platform you're on.
Although, before you get into the report, we used to do a radio show that was recorded in this tiny little room, and outside was like, there was always kids playing, so you could never open the window because there'd be like, you just have kids on the microphone on live radio, which is not great.
True.
But I remember days where me and you would be sitting there and like, the sweat was falling off us, but the room was tiny and there was only one window and we couldn't open it.
There was one window that like focused the sun in on us, and there was two of them in a room maybe 1 metre by 3 metres. Like, it was scutching, lads.
Some of our best stuff. You know how it is, your best stuff comes out when you're clammy.
It's where we peak. It's the suffering. I'm rolling up my sleeves. I don't give a fuck. I'm in bits. Oh.
Okay, Shaun, I'm excited. Who have you done this week? I'm excited to know about this.
Well, Connor, Spider-Verse has come out. We did a review of it on Monday. My favourite Spider-Man of all time is Ben Reilly, who was very well reflected, I would say, in that film. This also comes as a request from Ed, who was messaged me and was like, hey, I realise we haven't done a Hero Zero on Ben Reilly.
I was just thinking that I was like, we've definitely done a Hero Zero on Ben Reilly.
We've done Kane Parker, who's another clone, and Ben Reilly popped up in that one.
By the way, you just said the phrase another clone, which if someone doesn't know who Ben Reilly is, there's going to be a whole lot of explaining to do.
Well, look, I decided the easiest way to talk about this is just to not address the clone saga at all and just tell it incidentally as it comes up. Because otherwise it's ludicrous.
Perfect. And I think I'll give a general overview. You don't have to go into it, right? But the Clone Saga was a story in the Spider-Man comics in the 90s where they decided that Peter Parker apparently, if as a shocking cover for a comic book, he found out he was a clone. And then there was a whole thing of, when did he die? When was he cloned? What happened? The saga went on for, I could only assume, maybe 10 years. It went on way too long, and every single issue had to end with a cliffhanger. So there was always someone coming back to life, or a different Spider-Man coming up as a clone. It was just the world's worst cliffhangers in a story that made no sense, meandered along, and just they made stuff up as it went along.
And this happened, right? And then Ben Reilly became his own character, and then they've retroactively added stuff in between all of the bits. And it's just this absolute clusterfuck that has now become part of the character, which is something I'm going to touch on here.
And Ben Reilly, by the way, was the original clone. I bet that's what we're doing here.
Kind of.
Okay.
But again, we're glossing over most of that, Connor. So, the reason Ben Reilly was created, he was created by a geneticist supervillain called the Jackal, Miles Warren. And he was made to basically torment Spider-Man because the Jackal was in love with Gwen Stacy, and the Jackal blamed Spider-Man for Gwen Stacy's death. Okay? So he's like, I'm going to make a clone, and I'm just going to make him fight Spider-Man, and that'll be the way to go. So the two Spider-Men fight. The clone does not have a name at this point. It's Peter Parker versus a clone.
But he looks like Peter Parker.
He looks exactly like Peter Parker. It's a very good comic cover.
Good.
During the fight, only one could survive because Ned Leeds, who was Peter Parker's best friend, was going to be blown up. He was going to be bombed to death. Okay?
You know how it is.
So one of them frees Ned, the other one stays behind to try and disarm the bomb. Jackal then explodes it, seemingly killing himself and also the clone. All right?
Problem solved. No need to go any
Spider-Man
further.
retrieved the corpse of the clone, quote-unquote corpse, ladies and gentlemen, and buried him at an industrial chimney. He just drops him down a chimney. It's a really weird choice that he makes.
Very a humanist approach from old P.T. Parker.
The clone, however, was alive and managed to survive due to the fact that the Jackal had injected him with something earlier while he was unconscious. That's how it's explained. In an attempt to sow confusion between Peter Parker and the clone, I'm going to say this, and I need you to just go with it. I don't ever want to talk about this again. To sow confusion between Peter Parker and the clone, the Jackal dumped a different, already dead clone of Peter Parker down the same smokestack that Peter Parker dumped the living clone in after the Jackal had rescued him.
I really tried to gloss over at the start, but people listened. This is in a comic book.
Every week this shit was coming out.
And they were like, I always, in my head, with the Clone Saga, think of like them in the writer's room. So they're releasing an issue, and then they all go back to the writer's room and they're just like, what the fuck are we going to do for next time?
Yeah.
Anyone have any ideas? Jackal makes another clone, right?
Because
good one.
Well, here's the thing, is that the original clone thing happened in, like, I think it was the 70s, right? That there was this clone of Peter Parker that was made. He was dumped in a chimney. We see the skeleton in that issue, right? Then in the 90s, they decide they want the clone to come back, but we've already seen the skeleton. So they just wrote in that Jackal put in a decoy skeleton for no reason.
God, that right through a decoy skeleton, why not? That's the perfect way to write around it.
It's the genius, boys. After the clone regained consciousness, the clone witnessed Peter Parker and Mary Jane in an embrace and concluded that he must be the clone, as his feelings wouldn't have developed to the point where he could emotionally love Mary Jane. That's the logic by which he decides he's a clone. Because through this whole issue, the debate is he a clone or is he the real Peter Parker? Okay? So
his logic is that it's because he doesn't want to kiss Mary Jane, so he must be a clone because he doesn't have the emotional feelings towards
his
her.
Logic is that, that it's such a loving embrace that he sees the other two in, that Mary Jane couldn't love the clone in the same way that she loves Peter, because they have an emotional connection that's stronger than biology. And the fact that he has all of his memories as well.
Okay.
So, after this, the clone spent the next 5 years in exile from New York. He dubbed himself Ben Reilly, using his Uncle Ben's first name and his Aunt May's maiden name. After a period where he was struck down by the flu, as we all are, he met a scientist named Seward Trainer. Seward Trainer he worked with the High Evolutionary, so he understands genetics and cloning and all this thing.
That's a fucking nerd. C-word.
C-word. Look, I'm a bit C-word myself, Connor.
Is he a bit of a C-word?
A bit of a C-word all around. Bad dude. But C-word is like, listen, just because you're a clone, you can still be your own person. So what C-word does is he helps Ben. He gives him fake references so that he can find work. And basically Ben then like hops between jobs, moves between cities, because he can't stay anywhere too long before people figuring out, hey, this guy has no real backstory. He's just showed up one day with all of these references. However, he does still have all the spider powers. So
he's just not using them.
He tries to stop, but he has spider sense, resulting in him helping the local police to deal with various gangs in Salt Lake City. He also had the Uncle Ben experience. Like, he got the great power, great responsibility line. He is functionally Peter Parker up until the moment he's made, and then they become different people.
Right. Okay, so I mean, by that logic then, wouldn't he feel feelings towards Mary Jane?
Well, Connor, that is going to come up later on. I will explain this.
Also, I know the twist that's coming, and I really want to set it up. And I think anyone listening to this, they know the twist that's coming.
Yeah, it's going to come a couple of times, believe me.
Yeah, just when you think the twist has come, it's going to twist back around, so you're back on the straight and narrow, and then the twist is coming again.
So during his time in Salt Lake City, Ben Reilly found love with a college student / waitress named Janine Godby. She was later revealed her true identity was Elizabeth Tyne. This is all retcon stuff that's been added in since. She's a character called Hallows Eve, who was a fugitive who killed her father after repeated years of abuse. Although Ben spent some time living with Janine, she apparently committed suicide out of guilt for her past crimes. We say apparently there, because of course she fucking doesn't.
Oh, I heard the word apparently, and I assumed rightly that they would, I mean, you'd have to bring her back, because like, you could never let this story die. It has to continue getting more convoluted as the issues go on.
Dude, and like this has gone on, like bullshit has been happening up until even about 3 months ago, where new developments happened with Ben Reilly. After Janine's apparent suicide, he began working in a high school using an alias, initially letting students believe him to be mentally disabled, so that no one would pay any attention to him. After this, he helped rescue a woman from home invaders, where he realised, I can be Spider-Man, I can help people. He then worked in Italy for a little while, until the mafia made him leave. And this is all just adding colour to Ben Reilly's life and existence.
The mafia made him leave. Get out, Ben. We don't want you. We don't even like you, here, Ben. Just leave.
So he, after leaving Italy, he decides to return to New York because Aunt May is dying, as she always is in comics. Apparently. Coming to see Aunt May, Ben came face to face with Peter and had to explain his reasons for returning. Peter had also been through some recent tragedies at this time that we won't get into, but his presence inspired Peter to get through that dark mood. And so they actually became friends, and they started working side by side as Spider-Man and the Scarlet Spider. Okay, so everything's going great for both of them right now.
Apparently.
Until C-Word Trainer turns back up. And he says that Peter was the clone and Ben had been the real Peter Parker all along.
Yay!
You knew it was coming.
You gotta have that moment where, wait a minute, if I'm here and I'm the... Whoa, no!
This drove Peter almost insane and left Ben stunned. They agreed to keep their names since Ben still didn't feel like he deserved the name Peter Parker.
So now Ben is Peter Parker and Peter Parker is Ben?
No, they've kept their own name. So Peter Parker is saying Peter...
But in terms of who they are in the body, Ben is Peter and Peter is Ben, but they've kept the names of Peter and Ben on the opposite people.
Yes, the continuity that is being presented right now is that the Ben Reilly who went to Salt Lake City and then Italy and everything like that was actually Peter Parker the whole time.
But he's still called Ben Reilly. And then the other guy is Ben Reilly, but he's called Peter Parker.
Yes, but the person that thought they were Peter Parker this whole time has gotten Mary Jane pregnant. So they decide, we're just going to peace out, we're going to leave, and now you're the Spider-Man of New York. So now Ben Reilly, who looks exactly like Peter Parker, only he has blonde hair, which he dyes himself, is now the cool new 90s Spider-Man in New York, is all that's happening.
It was just a way to get a cool new 90s Spider-Man.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you remember Kane Parker, the other clone that was made?
Well, I know Kane's coming in at some stage because, I mean, you're not going to just have two clones. I want stories where the two of them are together and then we have a comic book issue where a third clone is there and they're like, who's that guy?
There's a couple of them. There's Spider-Side, there's Tarantula, there's a whole load of them. So, Kane Parker is angry, even more emo Spider-Man, okay? He does this thing called the Mark of Cain, where... the way Spider-Man's wall crawling abilities work is that he can stick himself to any surface, and if he doesn't choose to let go, he won't. So he will stick his hand to someone's face, attach it, and then rip their skin off. That's called the mark of Cain, is what he does. He's a bad dude.
Edgy. Lord.
So edgy. However, all of these marks of Cain leave Peter Parker's fingerprints on all of these criminals. So Peter Parker is put on trial for murder.
But it's not Peter Parker, it's Ben. No, it is Peter Parker, but he's called Ben Reilly.
It's presented that he was the one who was cloned, but now he's Peter Parker. And so he is going to prison as Peter Parker.
Let's just all settle in. Okay, so Peter Parker, who is named Ben Reilly, is on trial for murders committed by Cain Parker, who has somehow, well, his fingerprints are the same, so the DNA matches.
But there is no one called Cain Parker in any DNA database or fingerprint database.
Of course, there's only Peter Parker. So between the three of them, all of them can kill, but Peter's always going to get the blame. But they're all Peter Parker, but they're not.
Yes, exactly. This is going to get even more confusing because...
How big was the board with the red string?
I imagine it must have just been a whole wall at this point. Like
how were they keeping on track of where everyone was?
So the Peter Parker that went off to live with MJ and have a happy family, right? That Peter Parker is the one on trial for murder. Goes to prison. Ben Reilly takes Peter's spot in prison, meaning that Peter that went away to live with MJ now becomes New York's only Scarlet Spider. He doesn't become Spider-Man again.
You're saying all this like it solves the problem, and I'm more confused.
So then after this, Ben is exonerated. Or, well, Peter's exonerated, but it's Ben in prison.
One of the three is exonerated at this
There's
point.
no Spider-Man in prison at the minute.
Good stuff.
So, and Peter and MJ are like, we're going to go back home and live away from here. Ben, do you want this spider suit? And
just knocking about.
And Ben is like, no, I'm going to just be the Scarlet Spider. He joins the new Warriors, although he soon quits because he refused to take off his mask and they didn't trust him. So then, fuck me, it's so warm. So Peter's gone. Ben is the only spider person in New York. He decides to become Spider-Man once again. So he gives up the mantle of Scarlet Spider, starts going by Spider-Man. He began to shape his own life, starts working at a barista in a local coffee shop, started dating local university student Jessica Carradine. He ended things with her because she is the daughter of the burglar that killed Uncle Ben.
For fuck's sake. So he's had two female love interests. One killed her father and then committed suicide through the guilt. And they supposedly, but didn't, but she's still alive, but supposedly she's dead. And the other one is the daughter of the lad who shot Uncle Ben.
Yes.
Surely there has to be somebody else. New York is so big. Why are they only running into these people?
So as the rumours of a new Spider-Man spread through the streets, Ben thought about contacting the Human Torch, but he had no idea what kind of relationship he and Peter had. The Human Torch eventually took the initiative and wrote a message to Spider-Man in the sky saying to meet him at the Statue of Liberty. Johnny realised almost immediately that he was a different Spider-Man to the one he knew, and angrily asked him who he was. Ben replied by saying he didn't have to explain himself to him. Then, after saving a woman from committing suicide on Christmas Day, Ben met up with Johnny Storm at the Statue of Liberty again after another message in the sky. It turns out that the Human Torch and Peter always meet up at the statue on Christmas morning to kind of exchange pleasantries. Then Johnny gives him a Fantastic Four communicator in case he ever needed to talk in the future. So the Fantastic Four, the first family of Marvel, the comic writers are just like, hey, They love this new Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So you should be on board with Ben Reilly.
But the problem is, and look, I don't want to say they've gone wrong, but I mean, every other thing I've ever learned about Ben Reilly has been against my own will. And I feel like at this point, if I was reading these issues, I would be like, just do one and then have him be friends with the Fantastic Four and we can be done with it.
Well, it's about to get a lot more interesting.
How is it going to get more...
Do you remember C-Word Trainer? C-Word Trainer's coming back, you see. Because it's revealed. It's revealed, Connor, in a reveal, that C-Word was working for Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, the whole time.
Fuck.
You see, Norman had survived the glider to his chest that killed him all of those years ago. And he created the whole clone saga in order to drive Peter Parker insane.
But I thought the Jackal came up with it to drive Peter Parker insane.
Norman made him do it.
So Norman drove Jackal insane to the point where Jackal wanted to drive Peter Parker insane. And somehow this is a good plot point that we're all meant to be on board with.
Yes. So... Peter Parker comes back at this point to fight. Also, there's a whole thing where Norman Osborn had kids with Gwen Stacy, and it's a really weird thing in comics that no one really addresses, and it's one of the worst things that they've ever done. The main thing to know is that when a clone dies, their body disintegrates into dust. Okay? So, during a confrontation between the Green Goblin and the two Spider-Men, Norman impaled Ben Reilly with his glider, and Peter watched as he disintegrated, proving that Ben was the clone all along, and Peter Parker was never a clone. This is when they bring him back as Spider-Man, because everyone hated Ben Reilly at the time.
But up until this point, they've been saying that Ben has been Peter and Peter has been Ben, but they've just swapped names.
They're saying that everything that ever happened to Peter Parker was indeed Ben Reilly, but he didn't feel worthy of the Peter Parker name.
I think this might be as bad as your Psylocke report.
It's not me, though. It's the writing.
No, it's not you. But Psylocke, to even attempt this on a day in the summer is almost too mad to even consider. And I respect you, but also fuck you. So, I mean, you have to factor both of those points in.
Okay. We're into a weird bit. I'm going to try and breeze through this as best I can.
We're going into the weird bit.
Well, Ben Reilly comes back, Connor, by the Jackal who's still around and cloning lads.
And was the Jackal driven mad to bring Ben Reilly back by a Norman Osborn, who I assume was driven mad to bring the Jackal in by Electro? I'm not quite sure.
It's all connected. Well, it's interesting you're naming villains. That'll come up in a second. So... The Jackal had developed cloning technology to bring people back up with memories up until their point of death. However, they suffered from cellular degradation. They aged very, 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 very quickly. In order to try and solve this, the Jackal killed and resurrected Ben Reilly multiple times. Reilly then managed to break free, attack the Jackal, and cloned the Jackal a bunch of times. Reilly then takes on the mantle of the Jackal and starts this pharmacy company where they clone people to get healthy organs to keep people alive for ages. Okay? I'm breezing through this, okay? He resurrects Gwen Stacy and is like, I don't trust myself without Gwen, and then Gwen Stacy's back. It's all great.
He clones the Jackal.
He clones the Jackal. He clones all of the Spider-Man villains and creates this little community underground where they all live in harmony. He then brings Peter Parker in and is like, isn't this class? Do you know what I'm going to do next if you join me? I'm going to bring back Uncle Ben. And Peter Parker is just like...
What the fuck is going on?
He's wearing... Ben Reilly goes fully insane at this point. He's wearing a Jackal...
He's been killed and brought back to life multiple times.
Exactly. Every time he does it, his soul is fucked, his mind is fucked, it's all fucked. So... He's like, I'll bring back Uncle Ben. It'll be great. We'll live in paradise. And then Peter is like, he has this really good line, is that Ben, you possess power, but you don't have responsibility. and it's like, oh, fuck.
That's similar to what the other lad said.
Indeed it is, Connor. Ben then orders all of the villains that he had cloned to attack Peter at once. Ben attempted to transfer his mind into a prototype body that wouldn't suffer the degradation. He does it, but Dr. Octopus knocks him unconscious, everyone flees, and then Ben Reilly goes back to his own safe house and kills the original Jackal, who he had captured that whole time. He's just an old man who was weirdly in love with a 19-year-old girl.
He just wanted to commit a little bit of weird fucking love, right? And look, he's frowned upon. That's down bad. If we're going to say that, it's bad.
Man's getting bonked.
I don't know if he deserved to have his whole identity cloned, then his whole life ruined, and then murdered, and his body taken.
No, but
jail. I would accept jail.
Jail is fine. Jail is fine. After this, Ben decides to pave a new future for himself. The words of Peter Parker resonated with him. He realises he has to do good. He goes to Las Vegas in an attempt to begin a new life, returning to the mantle of Scarlet Spider in the process.
How many times has Ben Reilly attempted to start a new life in comic books?
This particular time, I believe, is his fourth.
He's always going away with like a stick with a little bag at the end.
Oh, you know, like that shot of the spider suit in the bin. That's him every day.
And he's always waving, and we're like meant to care after the 7th time.
So Ben's past still haunted him in the form of dissociative identity disorder, which caused Ben to hallucinate his past selves. Not long after that, he was forced into an alliance with a businesswoman named Cassandra Mercury, whose daughter Abigail had been one of the people that had gotten the clone organs from Jackal, when Ben was Jackal. Now, Abigail's disease had come back, and Ben is like, okay, I'll help you find a cure for this disease. Ben was being followed by Kane Parker, who wanted to kill Ben for all of the bad things he did as the Jackal. Kane eventually agreed to let Ben go until Abigail was cured.
Now, by the way, this is Kane, who's the moral compass, who is the guy who's ripping people's faces off.
Exactly.
Good stuff.
Not a good sign for Ben Reilly. In an even worse sign, Ben was confronted by the personification of Death, who had become obsessed with Ben due to the many times he had died and come back to life. Death warned Ben that his many passings through the afterlife had corrupted his soul, though it would eventually heal in time to the point where he could return to being the hero he once was. However, one more death and resurrection would forever contaminate his soul, and he could never be returned, essentially.
We finally have stakes. Good.
Finally. As a parting gift, after this conversation, Death offered to either bring Kane, who Death had killed when he tried to attack Ben, or Abigail, who had died of her injuries, back to life, prompting Ben to offer his own life in order to save theirs. So, now, that's kind of a heroic thing to do. After the Jackal thing, and after all the fighting, Ben had really bad scarring on his face, as if to show
I feel kind of scared, to be honest, but fair enough.
Imagine reading it week on week. So, amused, Death not only resurrected Kane and Abigail, but healed the scars on Ben's face too. Although, he learned that if he compromised his heroism, the scars would return. That's kind of cool.
That is cool. That's the first cool thing that's happened.
So, this I'm entirely breezing over because it's bullshit. He gets involved with the Midnight Suns trying to stop Mephisto taking souls of the people in Las Vegas. Mephisto offers Ben a deal. He will save Abigail's life and purify his soul in exchange for helping him stop the Midnight Suns. Ben agrees to this, but ultimately goes back on the deal with Mephisto. He eventually gets the cure from the angel Gabriel himself. However, just as Ben is about to inject the cure into Abigail, a demon who was pretending to be Mephisto basically killed Ben.
Can I just ask you, are you on drugs?
Yeah.
Currently?
I wish I was, man. I wish I was. It's all heat stroke.
Everything you just said makes so little fucking sense. Not from you, but whoever wrote that needs to be arrested. Whoever came up with those ideas needs to be put in a jail cell and made think about what they've just done.
It's so bad. So look, Ben is dead. Abigail gets the cure injected in her. Because the cure is the blood of the angel Gabriel, so Abigail ascends to a spiritual level of existence, cures Ben and heals his soul. Well, brings him back to life. However, Ben is now sociopathic, and when he's doing violence, he enjoys it. He feels bad afterwards, but he really enjoys violence. Okay?
Up until this point, he's been so nice.
He has been. Like,
oh yeah.
So then, this is the end. This is right at the end. We're right at the final
you
bit.
Did it. Come on.
So, Superior Spider-Man happens. Dr. Octopus takes over Peter Parker's body. This is when all of the Spider-Verse stuff happens in the comics. Okay? The Inheritors, who hunt spider people and eat them, they're vampires, that's all you need to know. They are using cloning technology to escape from their prison. Ben Reilly volunteers himself to Otto Octavius, being like, I know the most about cloning objectively. Mm-hmm. Otto is unsure because he remembers all of the bad things that Ben did as the Jackal. However, Ben explained that having been killed and resurrected so many times, he had been driven insane and was trying to redeem himself, something that Otto should be able to identify with. Otto ultimately betrayed Ben, giving him to the Inheritors in exchange for all of the other spiders being left alone. So Otto's just like, listen, you can have him, he's the worst one of us.
Not even
and then
Kane.
just leave all of us alone. Not even Kane. Kane, I think, is dead at the time. One of the Inheritors consumes Ben and is immediately driven insane by being forced to relive the memories of his 27 deaths and resurrections.
Oh, that's good.
Ben was resurrected a 28th time by Otto, who revealed that he and Ben had actually planned this from the beginning. Ben stated that it had given him a clean slate. Not only had his scars disappeared, but apparently his last death and resurrection had made him sane again. As he put it, he was back to factory settings. Now,
Shaun, that is shit.
It's so bad. It's so
I have
bad.
never come in at the end of a report before, but not the report. That story, the whole thing, shit.
It's really bad, okay? It gets worse. I don't even have this written, I just know this happens, is that within the last 3 months in comics, Ben Reilly lost all of the formative Peter Parker memories, so all of the Uncle Ben, great power, great responsibility, fuck all of that. He's now a villain named Chasm, who has all of the spider powers, but he can also make things out of light. It's so dumb and bullshit. It kind of looks cool. Real bad. Powers and abilities. All of the things Spider-Man has, essentially. Cool. Superhuman strength, stamina, speed, durability, regeneration, agility, reflexes, balance, spider sense. We know what all of these are about. Wall crawling. One thing he doesn't have, that Peter Parker has, is indomitable will. If Peter Parker decides something, he will stick to that. Whereas Ben Reilly, as is proven, little bit unstable.
He's a bit flaky.
He's a little bit flaky. And look, in this amount of heat, that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm saying about Ben Reilly. Oh, Jesus.
Truly one of the greatest reports I've ever heard.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I think I stick by indictments for everyone involved. I think they should all be ashamed of themselves.
Really cool design. He's got a hoodie on. I
don't care what he's designed like. Every story he's in appears to be, and I can only assume from listening to this, fucking shit. And
which is why I think the way they did it in Spider-Verse is amazing, where he's just like, just remembering my traumatic past.
Which is the only way you should do it.
Just make a joke out of him.
I know you love Ben Reilly because he's an edgelord.
He's an edgelord, and I think it sums up just how mental comics are. I think he's like the pinnacle of characters for how wrong a story can go.
But please, I really want people to message in to know if you've kept up with what happened here. If you read the Clone Saga, I'd also like you to put a message in. Maybe tell us what you thought of it while it was happening. Because I can't imagine living through it. And I mean, I did, but I can't imagine like week to week buying the issues.
No, but I feel like I've died and been resurrected 27 times in this report.
Do you want me to take us out?
But I just did a report. You have to take us out.
That's what I just said. Do you want me to take us out?
Sorry, I thought I can't hear. It's too hot.
Sorry,
to
I
listen.
died and I just came back.
Sorry. Yeah. You're Shaun, actually. I'm Conor.
But I have Conor's memories and you have Shaun's memories.
Yeah, it really worked out well for everyone.
It's perfect storytelling. No notes.
No notes.
If you like what you heard here, we've done hundreds of other reports on lots of other comic book characters. DC, Marvel, we've covered them all. You can go back and listen to all of them. They're on Spotify, iTunes, and basically all your podcast platforms. If you give us a like and follow whatever podcast platform that you're listening to this on, it would really, really help us out. We have an Instagram, a Facebook, a Twitter. They're all down below. And we have a Patreon where we put up extra movie shows where we review movies that maybe see if they still hold up from a few years ago. We also did a Spider-Verse review on Monday, so check that out, along with Weird News. And if you could just tell one human being that we exist, that'd be pretty good.
Just the one. Yeah, just the one, please.
Just the one.
And if you have a load of ice, you
Lawler.
drop it on me. I've been Shaun Mean.
And the jackal. I want to report the jackal. Okay. We'll see you all next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.